Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our November onX Hunt 101 Masterclass. My name's Jack. I'll be leading you through this webinar tonight. Before we get rolling, just a little bit of housekeeping while we wait for everybody to get logged in and get situated. So first thing, your audio and video are turned off, so no worries if you have noise in the background. We can't see or hear you. If you do have questions, we do have another member of the onX Hunt team in the background answering questions. So use the Q&A feature in the bottom bar for all questions. Chat is also there. That is better for just letting us know where you're from, or if you want to talk with somebody else in the class. Questions in the chat will probably not be answered. It's just not conducive to a question and answer in the chat. That's what the Q&A feature is for. So please use that if you have questions. This class is being recorded, so we will send out an email tomorrow evening with the YouTube link to this class. So all of our classes get uploaded to YouTube. You can always find the old classes there by going to the onX Hunt YouTube channel, clicking on the Masterclass playlist. You can see all the old Hunt 101s and all of our other more kind of in-depth, deep dive type classes, species-specific classes, things like that. But for this class tomorrow, we will send you an email with that direct link, so you don't have to go searching for it. So you can rewatch parts, or if you have to leave early, you can watch the stuff you missed. Finally, stick around for a giveaway towards the end of the class. We're going to be giving away some onX Hunt t-shirts. We'll give away 10 of those to lucky attendees. You do have to be present in the class to enter, and then we'll do that drawing tomorrow morning and alert the winners and send out the prizes. So let's get into it. Quick agenda for the evening. We're going to talk about the different membership levels of onX Hunt, what each one of them gets you. We'll talk about the ins and outs of the app. We're not going to cover every single feature of the onX Hunt app. If we did that, we would be here all night. This is a 101. Goal for today is that you are comfortable using the onX Hunt app, that you would feel comfortable going out on a hunt this weekend or sometime soon, and that you feel that confident in your proficiency, that you're going to be able to use at least the basic features of the app, turn on some layers, save offline maps, use waypoints, find your location, track yourself, things like that. At the end, we'll try to save some time for the Q&A and the giveaway. And before I get any farther, one thing I forgot to mention, if you do have questions pertaining to your account, anything from like your password, resetting it, or your billing or renewal date, anything like that, we don't have the bandwidth to really answer those account-specific questions tonight. So if you do have questions specific to your account, please email our customer support team. That email address is help@onxmaps.com, and they'll be able to help you. They're a fantastic team, all US based. And if you send an email tonight, you can expect a response from them tomorrow. All right, so let's talk about the different membership options in onX. You really have kind of three different levels. The first one is the basic membership. So basic membership means you have not purchased a paid membership. It's free access to onX. That means you maybe had started a trial and it had expired, or you previously had a membership that expired. That's how you become a basic member. Now with a basic membership, you're not really able to do a whole lot in the app. You're able to see the satellite imagery and the topography, and that's really about it. You're not able to turn on and off the land ownership layers or mark waypoints or save offline maps or things like that. To be able to do all of those things, you want to upgrade to either a premium or an elite membership. Now, the premium membership comes in two levels. There's a premium one-state membership. That gets you access to all the map tools. So things like waypoints, offline maps, tracker, things we'll cover in a bit here, as well as all of our nationwide layers and your land ownership layers for one single state. So if you hunt Iowa, for example, it's the only state you hunt, that single state premium might be the option for you. It lets you see Iowa private lands, public lands, IHAP lands, things like that. If you hunt 2 states, the premium 2 state is the membership for you. So it's for a premium 1 state's $35, 2 state is $50. So an additional $15 lets you add another state. We created the 2 state membership for people who are like, man, I live right on the border of Mississippi and Alabama, and I hunt those 2 states. It'd be nice to be able to have just those 2. Or somebody who's from Maryland but goes up to Colorado to elk hunt every year, just needs those 2 states. So that's the premium 2 state membership. To get the full spectrum of everything onX has to offer, you'll want to go with the elite membership. So elite membership's $100. It gets you access to map layers for all 50 states plus Canada. So you get land ownership in all 50 states. You get what we have in Canada. We can dive into Canada a little bit. Our data there is not quite as robust as the United States. We are working on adding more, but you do have to have the elite membership to access that data. And elite also gets you access to a bunch of educational courses, things like the Hunting Public's Deer School, the Elk Collective. We have a turkey hunting course in there, a shed hunting course, dog training, both retriever and pointer focused, a lot of different stuff in there, as well as discounts on brands and gear that we used. So brands like Lacrosse and Schnee boots, Bushnell trail cameras, Vortex optics, tethered tree saddles, list goes on and on. So that all comes with your elite membership. So that's kind of the difference between basic, premium, and elite. To get into the actual map now, I'm going to stop sharing on my computer and I'm going to pull up onX on my tablet. So one moment here while I pull that up. There will be a little bit of a lag on the tablet. It's just kind of how Zoom works on this tablet to show the onX map. I can see it's already lagging. There we are. So I'm on an iPad here. You can also access onX on an Android device. It's going to look very much the same. You can also access onX on your computer. We'll get into that towards the end of the class. I'll show you how to access the web map on a laptop or desktop computer. But the vast majority of people use onX almost exclusively on a mobile device, typically on their phone. If you're watching us right now on a laptop or a computer and you have a mobile device handy, I highly recommend pulling that up and following along if you can. That's a great way to learn, is by kind of following along and doing what I am demonstrating here on the screen. I understand a lot of you are watching on a mobile device. That's okay too. Just thought I'd offer that out there for the people that have that option. So this is the onX Hunt app. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm located here at the home office in Missoula, Montana. As I zoom in a little bit, you see my map is beginning to change a little bit. I've got a bunch of orange boxes with names inside of them. Those are my private lands. Those are the private parcels. If you're not seeing that on your side and you have a paid membership, what's likely happening is you have that layer turned off. So this is a common question that we get is, hey, I paid for the state of Montana, but I can't see any private lands. What gives? What's going on? The map, kind of the heart and soul of the map, is in the map layers menu. That's in the lower left-hand corner. So if you look at my map, in the lower left-hand corner, there's a button there that says Hunt Map Layers. If I tap on that, my map layers menu opens up and I have a whole bunch of different folders here. You see Minnesota, Montana, current conditions, etc. Right now, we're going to focus on Montana. I'm going to tap on that Montana folder. It opens it up and it's going to show me all of the different layers available to me that are Montana specific. Your state is going to look different. Every state has different layers that are available to it. largely based on if they have a walk-in program, if there are different types of hunting restrictions. Like in Montana, we have hunting districts, and then we have portions, smaller segments that have different regulations or different tags, different state programs like that. Every state, however, is going to have private lands, government lands, and possible access. And I believe almost every state will have some version of hunting districts. There's one state, I believe it's either Illinois or Indiana, does everything pretty much based on county, as far as I know, at least deer. So we don't have the districts because everything's county basis there. Yours might not be called hunting districts. It might be deer permit areas. It might be GMUs, might be wildlife management zones. There's a bunch of different names for it, but they all basically mean the same thing. To turn any of these layers off and on, all you have to do is tap that green switch on the right. So I'm going to turn off the private lands there and minimize this menu. You can see the difference when I toggle that off and on. So that's a question I mentioned earlier we get from a lot of people. I can't see private lands. I can't see government lands. I know I have a current membership. It's all paid up. What's going on? Most of the time, those layers just got turned off. All you have to do is go back into map layers and turn them on. So private lands, I can see the boundaries here. I can see the names in there, but if I want to get some more information, all I have to do is tap on the map. So this is kind of a strip mall across the street from the office here. I'm going to tap on it. The whole parcel is highlighted, and then I get some more information in this. It's called the query card down below. Tells me the ownership. This is our Montana Associated Limited Partnership, a name like you might expect for a strip mall. Their tax address, they're based out of New York, the company that owns this parcel. Tells me the county and the area. Okay, so I can do this, I'll just tap on a house here. Tells me who owns this house, their tax address, county, acreage. So this is useful. The tax address, of course, is not the address, not necessarily the address of the parcel. It may be. This parcel here, I know the address is not, the street address is not New York, but that's where the owner of the property receives their taxes, receives their mail. So if you're trying to get in touch with a private landowner, if you want to, ask permission to hunt, or maybe you just want permission to go through their property to access some landlocked public land or something like that, you've got a tax address, you can send letters out to them. That's actually a pretty great way to gain access to some private land. Like, when's the last time you got a handwritten letter from somebody, right? I know people who they usually won't handwrite them, but they'll print out hundreds of letters every year and mail them out seeking access. So that you've got the tax address, so you're sending it to the right spot there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and go just outside of town to where we have some public land to show you what that looks like. So if I open up my map layers, go to my Montana government lands layer and toggle that off, you can see the difference. All government or public land is going to have some sort of color filter over the top. And it's going to be color coded by what type of land it is. If you don't know what the colors mean, tap on the map. That's going to be a common theme tonight. If you don't know what something is on the map, what some symbol means, what coloration it is, what that means, tap on the map is going to be the first thing you should do. So I just tapped on this green segment here. You can see that green dot where I tapped. It tells me this is Lolo National Forest. And as you start using the map more, if you're brand new, the colors will start to make sense. And I don't even have to tap on this green. I know that's national forest land. I know that this yellow is BLM land. State land is going to be more of a blue coloration. So this big piece of state here, state of Montana. If I go up Flathead Reservation, north of Missoula here, is more of a kind of a darker tan color. Glacier National Park is purple. Army or military installations are going to be pink. Okay, you get the idea. They kind of mirror a lot of the surface maps. If you've used the paper maps in the past, the color scheme is basically the same. Okay, so that's the public lands layer. Couple more I want to talk about quick in Montana. The hunting districts. This is one that we get a lot of calls and emails about to customer support, especially in Western states that have a lot of different big game species, because a lot of states will have different units or different districts for different species. Wyoming's one we hear about the most. They break their state down. They break it down by species more than any other state that I'm aware of. Since I'm in Montana, we use that as the example. You can see all of our different districts, from upland birds and waterfowl trapping districts, the moose, sheep, goat. Deer and elk is chosen by default. Most states are going to have deer, or if all your big game units are the same, that's what's going to be selected by default. If I zoom out, I'll show you what this looks like. So your hunting districts or hunt areas, whatever they're called in your state, I'm in Montana, I'm going to use districts for this demonstration, are these green shapes. They're not boxes, right? They're all kind of free form with the numbers in them. So those are all of our different Montana hunting districts. Earlier this year, I had a doe antelope tag. So I went into my Montana hunting districts and selected the antelope hunt district unit. You can see things have changed a little bit. There's no units in northwestern Montana because there's no antelope up there, right? Or at least there's no hunting opportunities. I can change to black bear when I bear hunt in the spring. Right now, I still have a deer tag, so I'm gonna leave the deer and elk turned on. So double check before you go hunting that you have the right units turned on. Sounds crazy to believe, but for the Western states, we're going to be coming into application season here very soon. Idaho tags go on sale in like a week and a half for their, what they call over-the-counter tags, right? And then we'll be into application season. Make sure when you're doing your scouting for that, if you're applying for tags, make sure you have the right districts turned on. Last state layer I want to talk about is the block management layer. Montana has a program called Block Management that is public access to private land. We were one of the first states in the country to do it. It's a great program. It opens up a lot of private land to public hunting. Over half the states in the union by now have a similar program. Every state's a little different, and every state calls it something different. In Kansas, it's walk-in hunter access. There's a couple of states that call it access yes. It's private land open to sportsmen in North Dakota. So everyone's a little bit different, but they're generally, some form of a stipend or payment to a landowner for allowing public access. What those look like on your map are going to be a black box with red dots inside of it. So this is a BMA, a block management area, kind of north of town here. And so it shows me the boundaries where I can hunt. It has some safety zones by people's houses, or maybe where they have cattle or farm animals where they don't want people hunting. And if I tap on it, it's going to give me the private land information. And if I scroll down, it tells me the name of the block management area, when it closes, the number, the type. Again, every state's different. Your state might not have numbers and types. In Montana, we have type 1 and type 2. And then if you want more information, you can click that link that says more info or area info. There we will link you to the state fish and game agency that manages these programs so that you can get more information. In the case of Montana, it will pull up the PDF that has all the rules and regulations of that block management area. So some of them allow motorized travel, some don't. Some only allow certain species to be hunted, but not everything. Some of them don't allow hunting on Sundays or certain days of the week. So make sure you click that link, make sure you're following the rules there. All right. Let's scroll down and we're going to go below Montana to some of these other layer collections or folders. No matter what paid membership you have access to these. Current conditions, land and access, roads, trails, and rec, trees, crops, and soil, and the wildlife layers. These are all nationwide, but you don't have to have an elite membership to access them. All the data sets are nationwide, but if you have a California premium membership, for example, you can still open up current conditions and see wildfires everywhere. That's one layer. I'm not able to go into all of these tonight, but the active wildfire layer, we're pretty much out of wildfire season by now, at least the majority of it. I know there's still fires going on, but that's one I have turned on, especially in the summer and early fall. I'm going to zoom out a bit and find some fires. So here's a few. You see these red flame icons right now on my map. And as I zoom in, the name shows up. And if I tap on it, it's going to give me more information about that fire. This time of year, these all have RX by them because they're prescribed burns. They're burning slash piles. They're maybe burning, doing like fuels reduction and things like that because it's not as hot and dry. We don't have to worry about a catastrophic wildfire starting. The important information on this, of course, the name, the acreage. So if this was not a prescribed burn, the acreage might be thousands of acres, and you would see the boundary of the fire on the map. I'm going to see if I can find an actual wildfire. I'm guessing they're pretty much all going to be prescribed burns by this time of year. Pretty much looks like it. Some of them in the wilderness are not prescribed, but they don't have a perimeter. Anyway, they will have the perimeter of the fire showing on them. They'll tell you the acreage. And then what's important is the source updated and onX last checked on there. So we will ping the source, the managing agency that's reporting on the fire and working on putting it out. We'll ping that source multiple times a day to see if anything's changed. We will tell you when we last checked. So we checked today, November 20th, 2024. The source hasn't updated since November 15th. So the data is 5 days out of date. For these prescribed burns, not that big of a deal generally. But if you're using this in August, September, kind of that peak fire season, and it says onX last checked September 10th, source last updated September 9th, then you know the data is pretty good. If it says onX last checked September 10th, source updated September 1st, a lot of stuff could change in 9-10 days, right? So it just kind of gives you an idea of how accurate that data might be. We can only be as accurate as what the source gives us. They don't update it. We're not going to guess what the fire's doing. So we go by what they give us. So again, that's in current conditions. You don't have to have a nationwide membership to access that. Anybody can turn it on. The land and access folder, there's a lot of good stuff in here. A couple I want to highlight. The wilderness areas should be turned on by default. It's going to look like this. This is the Bob Marshall Wilderness. You see that kind of hash mark over the top. That's for your federally designated wilderness areas. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service hunt areas. If I zoom in on my map here, this is a refuge, Fish and Wildlife Service refuge south of town here. It's this brighter green color. And a lot of these refuges allow hunting and fishing. So if you look at the map, this one is kind of color coded. This particular refuge has a waterfowl hunt area and an archery hunt area. You can hunt archery whitetail and waterfowl on this refuge, nothing else. And they've got specific zones for it. So if you look at it, you can see the no hunting areas. You can see the waterfowl areas. You can see the archery areas. And if you tap on it and scroll down, again, we're going to link out to the Fish and Wildlife Service website so you can get the more specific rules. Some of these have specific dates where certain types of hunting is allowed, certain areas you have to park, if you have to check in, things like that. But take a look at that. Refuges can be a great spot to hunt, and there's a lot of them, and they're spread kind of all throughout the country. Couple more layers quickly. Roads, trails, and rec. These are some that I always recommend people turn on. I'm going to zoom into an area. This is Mount Sentinel by Missoula, popular hiking spot. If I turn all of these off, you see you can't really tell where a lot of those trails are. As I turn the trails on, it gives me those black and white lines. I really like the trail slope layer. You can see as I toggle that on and off, it color codes the trails based on how steep they are, red being the steepest, green being the flattest. So you can kind of use that to plan a route. Do I want to go the real steep stuff, or do I want to take a more easy route that is a little bit flatter? You can turn on the mileages, the recreation sites. Those are layers I always have turned on. Recreation sites are going to be things like campgrounds, boat access sites, fishing access sites, even like breweries are in there. I think we have some old mines, points of interest, things like that. The final one in here I want to talk about is the motorized roads and trails layer. This one, a lot of people don't know about, and I think more people should. This is for primarily public lands. A lot of this data comes to us from the Forest Service. So if you have any land that's managed by the U.S. Forest Service, whether it's national forest or national grassland near you, this is a layer you should have turned on. It's going to show you those roads where you can take a motorized vehicle down and that typically receive some sort of maintenance. Now, they're not county roads or city streets, but they're not an old abandoned logging 2-track either. So these purple and white lines are what I'm talking about here. Again, common theme of the night. If I tap on the map, it's going to tell me more information. If I scroll down to the section on motorized roads and trails, it gives me the name of the road, the Forest Service road number, the ID. And the important stuff here is the accessible by and the open dates. Accessible by tells me if there's a width restriction on a road. Some of these are just dirt bike trails. Some of these have a 50-inch width restriction, so it's only ATVs and dirt bikes. Some of them are accessible by side-by-sides wider than 50 inches. This road here is a pretty good road. I've driven it many times. It's accessible by overland, high clearance 4x4, side-by-side ATV dirt bike. Overland means like a passenger car. You know, maybe not, you know, your Honda CRX or something like that, although I've seen plenty of Grand Ams and Honda Civics and stuff on some of these roads, but kind of any somewhat capable vehicle, 4-wheel drive, SUV, truck, etc. That's what overland means. If it just says high clearance 4x4, it's still legal to have a, you know, a street vehicle on there. There's not a width restriction, but it's a rougher road. So you might need something with some bigger tires or a lift kit. You might want to make sure you've got, you know, shovels and a winch and things like that. So you sometimes do have to ground truth these, but generally speaking, the overland are going to be the most accessible to you. And then the open dates is important. This road is open year round. That's not the case for every road. Let me find one here. I think this is one that closes. So this road here is closed from November 30th to May 16th. A lot of roads in Montana will close seasonally. They close down a bunch when archery season starts. Then they'll close down another chunk when rifle season starts. And then they close down a bunch in the winter to protect winter range and those calving and fawning areas. So we have a bunch of roads that won't open until the middle of May. Then we have a bunch of roads that won't open until the middle of June because it might be like an elk calving area and they want to just let those elks have their calves. It's a vulnerable time of year, you know, and then they open it up for the summer once those elk have calved and the calves are able to get up and around and things like that. So don't do what I did one of my first years in Montana, where I was driving out bear hunting in the spring, drove all the way out to a spot and the gate was closed because the Forest Service, they closed that gate until May 16th, and I was there on May 6th. All right. So there's a lot of other map layers in here. We don't have time to go into all of them. I recommend spending some time in here, turning layers on and off, seeing if they work for you. We do have some onX Hunt, some old Masterclasses, one on underutilized layers, one specifically on the trees, crops, and soil folder. I did a deep dive into those layers. So check those out if you're interested in learning a bit more about layers. Last thing I want to talk before we move on to offline maps is how to turn on and off additional states. We sometimes will get emails from people or a phone call that says, I bought the elite membership, but I don't have access to all the states. What's going on? I should have access to all 50 states. You do, but you have to turn them on individually. We recommend not having more than like 5 turned on at once, just because it can slow the map down a little bit. I personally rarely have more than like 2 or 3 turned on. I'm probably only hunting one state at a time. Maybe I'm scouting for an upcoming hunt. I'll have those 2 states turned on. So right now I have Minnesota and Montana. I just returned from Minnesota family deer camp. I don't need Minnesota anymore. I'm going to turn that off just by toggling that switch. If I want to turn on an additional, maybe I'm going to go down south to Arizona this year. Maybe I'm going to chase quail this winter. Tap on the Arizona tab or the switch. And now I see Arizona is available for me at the top there. I can open it up, turn on any of the layers I want to have turned on there. I can remove it from here as well and go back to just having Montana. So if you're not seeing information you think you should be seeing, double check and make sure your layers are turned on. And if you're seeing a layer if you're seeing coloration on your map, another question we often get is, what is this coloration on my map? I don't know what's going on. You can tap on the map to see, it might tell you what layer it is, but otherwise go into your folder here and you can see, like, for example, one we hear a lot of is the precipitation radar layer. People say, my map, it's all colored up. It looks like a weather map. I don't know what's going on. It's this precipitation radar layer. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, moving on from map layers. Again, we could talk for hours on layers, but we need to get to some other stuff. Let's talk about offline maps. How do I use onX when I don't have cell service? So in the lower left-hand corner, I'm going to tap on the tab or the button that says offline maps, far bottom left. It's going to open up this menu. Now yours is probably going to look different than mine. You might not have any maps saved. That's what all of these are with all these names in here right now. These are saved maps. If you look at my actual map here, you see these different colored boxes all over. Those are my previously downloaded offline maps. But let's move to an area where there are none. Let's say I want to hunt this area of Montana. I've never been here. Just going to a spot where I don't have any maps. All right, I've got my map in the general area. I'm going to tap the orange button that says new map. Now I have this red box or orange box on my screen. That is the boundary of my offline map. I can still zoom out a little bit. I can still with one finger, trying to do too much here. Let me get back there. So go back into offline maps, new map. I can still move it around and get it positioned just right. So let's say that's the area I want to hunt. From there, I can choose my map detail. There are 3 options right now: low, medium, and high. High detail is going to give you the highest detailed satellite imagery, but it's also going to be the smallest map size. You can see my dimensions there. Now, yours are probably going to be different on your device. That's okay. It's going to be a little bit different depending on each device screen because the dimensions are all different. This being a tablet, it's going to be different than if I was on an Android phone or on an iPhone or something. So the high detailed map, highest imagery quality, smallest size. Medium, you can get a much bigger map. The imagery is going to be a little bit fuzzier when you zoom in. I'm going to take a drink of water here. I got something in my throat. So the medium maps are what I use 90% of the time personally, especially when I'm hunting in Montana. Hunting in Montana sometimes involves a lot of driving around to different areas. I like to have a big map so that I know that I'm covered and I don't have to save a bunch of smaller maps. You do have a little bit less crisp imagery when you zoom in, but I've never really found that to be much of a hindrance personally. I've never been hunting and thought, man, if I would have had higher detailed map, I would have killed that buck or something. You're still able to see all of the land ownership, all your different layers and everything there. It's just the imagery is the only thing that's really different. Same thing goes for the low detail map. Now, this is a big map, right? I could probably use 2, maybe 3 of these and save the entire state of Montana. You are going to notice much less detailed imagery with the low detail map. For these, I use these as a backup. So I mentioned earlier, I had an antelope tag. I was also doing some pheasant hunting and sharptail hunting in eastern Montana. My tag was good for a few different units. So sometimes, antelope, upland bird, it can involve a lot of driving. Waterfowl hunting, if you're doing some scouting, you might be putting on a lot of miles. I saved those medium detailed maps for the areas I was planning to hunt. I saved a whole bunch of them and gridded them together. Like you see some of these, that are right next to each other. You can do that. And that's what I recommend most of the time. But if on the odd chance, all of those areas I went through and I'm like, man, there's no game here. I need to go somewhere else. That's when I have that low detail one as a backup. It still is going to show you all your roads and trails. It's going to show you the land ownership information. The imagery quality is not as useful, candidly. So that's what I recommend, those low detail ones as more of a backup. So let's go back to medium. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Let's say this is doing too much again. When I try to share with Zoom for sometimes, it's like it overloads the tablet here. Apologies, folks. We'll just get one saved here. So I've got this one. Let's say that's the area I want. I recommend naming your maps. I'm just going to name this one E for East, Montana. If you leave it as the standard, like timestamp name, that's okay. But when you get to the point where, like on my personal device, I've got probably 30, 40 different maps saved. It's nice to know where those maps are. Personally, I will name them after a unit. If the whole map kind of encompasses a unit I'm hunting, I will name them after maybe a nearby town or a region. So when I was hunting, I had a doe antelope tag for region 7 of Montana, like all of southeastern Montana. I just saved a bunch and named them all region 7. So I knew where they were. I was able to hunt North Dakota for upland birds a couple of weeks ago. I saved, I think, 6 maps, just named them all North Dakota. So I knew what they were. Whatever makes sense to you, give them a name. Tap the save button. That's going to start downloading. So I've got this green border right now that's showing me the boundary of that map. So that if I wanted to save additional maps and cover a bigger area, I could line that boundary up. I'm going to stop trying to do so much on this tablet because it keeps crashing on me. But you can see that Eastern Montana map is downloading right now. It'll take a little bit of time. You can see all of my other green boxes. Those are downloaded maps, but you might notice some of them have a red and white stripe on them. Those are maps that were previously downloaded to this device that are no longer downloaded. So those are maps that I maybe had used previously, but I'm not going to need anymore. I just did this with those North Dakota maps I saved on my personal account. I don't know when I'm going to hunt North Dakota again. Probably not this year. So I don't need those maps taking up memory, taking up storage on my phone. So I offloaded them. I'm going to show you what that looks like. This map here that says Big Snowies. I'm going to tap on, it's over the Big Snowy Mountains. I'm going to tap on those ellipses on the right-hand side and tap Remove from Device. Now you see that boundary changed. So when I go back to the Big Snowies, I can easily re-download this, but I don't have it taking up space when I don't need it. So that's what I do for can't draw an antelope tag in Montana every year. Hopefully, every other year or something. I will offload those maps and then re-download them when I go antelope hunting. When I go back to North Dakota, I'll re-download those maps. To re-download one, all you have to do is tap this down arrow. So the one that says Big Snowies, that's going to start downloading. Another way to check if a map is downloaded onto your account, onto your device, I should say, is if it's got the green check mark. Green means go, green check mark. This one that says Northwest Montana, that one is downloaded. I can go out right now and use it and navigate with it. You'll notice some of these say, well, actually, before I get to the updating, I want to talk about one more scenario where you could get these red and white boxes. If you get a new phone or you get a new device, all of your account transfers over. So you don't have to buy onX again. You just get your new phone, download the onX Hunt app, log in with the same email address and password you used on your previous phone, but you do have to re-download your offline maps. That data doesn't automatically transfer over. So when you log in on your new phone, you'll see all of your offline maps will have that red and white box. All you have to do is go in, tap that down arrow, and re-download them. All right, let's talk about updating. Occasionally things change and we update the map, right? Land ownership changes. Hunting districts might change once a year, typically, if they change at all. So when something changes in an area where you have an offline map, you're going to see that message that says update available. So here's a Wyoming map I saved. Actually, I'm going to get out of Wyoming because I don't have layers turned on. I'm going to go back to Northwest Montana. Something's changed here. Most commonly, houses are bought and sold every day. When we get that updated information, we change it on the map, but it's not reflected on my downloaded map. Okay, so I still have to update that if I want that updated information. A couple different ways to do this. One, I can just tap on the green check mark, and that's going to start downloading that map. Now, these are all in a queue. So this first one that I had is still downloading. Once that finishes, the Big Snowies will download, and then my Northwest Montana one will update. If I want to update them all at one shot, in the upper right-hand corner of the offline maps menu, I can tap the three dots and hit update all maps. Now, this can take some time. So I recommend doing this when you have the time to just hit the update button and set your phone down and go do something else. I work at onX, so I do this at work quite a bit. I'll be doing work on my computer. I'll open up my phone, update all maps, let it sit and run till it's all the way done. If you're going out hunting and you see something that says update available, don't worry. We have had people who said, man, it said update available. I had to go find a McDonald's to get Wi-Fi to update it so I could use it. Don't worry about it. Go hunting. Your map's still going to work. If it says update available, it's not like you can't use it. It's still going to work. Just try to update it when you get back or when you think about it. A lot of people will update theirs, right at the beginning of hunting season and call it good, and their maps work great. I try to do it once a week, which is probably overkill, quite frankly. Do it as often as you'd like, but don't let, if it says update available and you're heading out hunting, go hunting. Don't think that you can't use that map. I'm not going to update them all right now. But that's kind of the ins and outs of offline maps. When you're offline, you're still able to see your location. You're able to mark waypoints. When you get back into service, everything you did will sync up. So you can mark waypoints, you can track yourself, you can customize waypoints, do all that stuff you do while you're online. And then once you get back into cell signal or back onto Wi-Fi, then that will all sync up and be saved to your account there. Last thing on offline maps, we do often get the question of how do I save battery life? The best way to save battery life is to put your phone into airplane mode. If you're in an area where your cell signal's kind of iffy, it's kind of on the edge of service, we call it, you're going in and out, or maybe you're completely out of service. What I personally do is I put my phone into airplane mode because one of the biggest draws on your battery is that cell signal. If it's trying to ping, the cell tower, that and your screen typically are going to be your biggest draws on power. So I'll put it into airplane mode. onX still works. I'm able to use the offline maps. I'm able to see my location, do all that good stuff. And it's going to really, really extend your battery life. I do also carry a power bank. They're pretty ubiquitous now. I have one from Dark Energy that's really good. It's really solidly built. But you can find good power banks at like a grocery store a lot of times. I carry one of those as a backup. I don't often need it just because most of the time I'm day hunting. I'm going to be back home or back to the truck and I can plug in there. But it's a nice insurance policy to have. All right. Moving on from offline maps, I'm going to zoom back in to my location here. I'm going to delete this waypoint just to clear things up a bit, clear my map up. Don't worry, I'll go over how to delete a waypoint here soon. So waypoints are going to be the most commonly used map tool for most people. It allows you to just mark a spot for future reference. Couple different ways to mark a waypoint. What I just did is I tapped on the tools bar or the tools button, bottom center of my screen, looks like a Swiss Army knife. And in there, I can tap this button that says mark my location. That is going to put a waypoint wherever I am at the present moment. This is what I use most of the time when I'm out in the field and I want to find a place again. So I will mark things like tree stands, duck blinds. If I see a buck rub or an elk wallow and I'm standing right by it, I hit mark my location. It puts a waypoint there. From there, I strongly recommend customizing your waypoints. So this one, I hit mark my location. It gives it this name, my location 11/20/24 with the time. That doesn't mean anything to me, right? If I mark that right now, I know, hey, this was where I jumped a buck or something and I marked it. 6 months from now, am I going to remember that? Maybe, but maybe not. Tap on the waypoint, tap the edit button in the lower left-hand corner. Now I can customize this. So I'm going to give it a new name since it's at the onX office. I'm just going to name it Office. I can change the icon as well. It's going to be that X by default. We've got, I think, close to 90 different waypoint icons. So it could be anything from boat ramp, cabin, dog, parking area, you name it. I'm just going to put it as house because we don't have an office one. But you can see all of the different options there. We are always kind of looking to add more. So I know we don't have like a grouse one. As a grouse hunter, that bugs me. Maybe one day. We do get requests for different icons. Let us know if there's something you would really use so that we can get it added in there when we do another update here. Secondly, I always change the color, almost always change the color, I should say. I'm just going to make this one white and hit save. So now my waypoint means something to me. The icon type, whether it's a buck, an elk, a rub, wolf, whatever, that means something to me. I will mark my truck every time I park it. I'll hit mark my location, change it to the truck icon or change it to the parking area icon. I also use the colors to tell me something. I color code my waypoints. A lot of people at the office here do that, and everybody's got kind of a different method for doing it, and they're all good. The only wrong way to do it is to do nothing. Personally, I'm a generalist hunter, so I hunt pretty much anything they'll let me. So I color code my waypoints based on species. My deer waypoints are the regular kind of standard orange, reddish orange color. My elk are brown. My bears are blue. That way I can tell at a glance what the waypoint is, or at least what species it is. So I do that by, for turkey, upland game, waterfowl, you name it, right? Some other people at the office do theirs by year, especially if you typically are like, man, I'm eating up with whitetails and that's all I care about hunting. I don't care about upland or waterfowl or anything else. Then Jack's species, color coding by species doesn't apply to you. They might do it by year. So that 2024 is yellow, 2023 was black, 2025 is going to be purple. And you can tell that, when the waypoints were made at a glance just by using those colors. Other people will do it. If I was managing a property for whitetails or I was hunting, maybe like my family deer camp in northern Minnesota I just returned from, you could color code them based on the type of the waypoint. So I use different icons, but maybe I make all my tree stands red and all of my, deer sign green and the camp is blue, whatever, right? So that you can easily tell. Pick a system that you think is going to work for you and just kind of stick with it. I've been using my color coding system for so long now. I just associate those colors with those species. So I know my bear waypoints at a glance. I know my upland waypoints at a glance, etc. The more you put into this, the more you're going to get out of it. If your map is nothing but red X's with the standard name, please start customizing your waypoints, because 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to be happy that you marked that as an elk wallow, or I flushed a bunch of pheasants out of this cattail slough. I saw the big buck here in November. The more you put into it, it does sound a little tedious. It's really fast once you do it, once you get more practice at it. Now, if I'm hot on the tail of a whitetail buck and I want to mark some waypoints, I'm going to customize those after. Of course, that can maybe wait till that evening, but most of the time I have enough time to take 10 seconds in the field and customize it right there. So let's say I want to mark a waypoint at a spot that's not where I am. I'm going to move my map away. I'm going to go back into tools. I'm going to hit the button that says add waypoint. That's going to place the waypoint in the center of my screen. Let's say that's not where I want it to be. Well, I can zoom in a little bit and I'm just tapping my finger on the map. And you can see that waypoint is moving around. And you can do this for previously saved waypoints, like that one I just saved. If I want to change that location, I can go in and edit and change it. Let's say I'm going to mark it right there. I'm going to give it the pheasant icon. I'm going to change the color and hit save. Should change the name. In the interest of time, I'm not going to right now. So that's a way to mark a waypoint. If I'm scouting out an area and I want to mark, spots, I want to see if there are pheasants there. It's probably not going to be one right in the middle of Missoula there, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. So you can zoom out and you can place waypoints wherever you want. Another way you could do this would be by doing what's called a long press. So, oh, that meadow looks kind of interesting. I might want to check that out later. What I'm going to do right now is just hold my finger on the map and a waypoint gets dropped. So you have to hold it. It's like 1.5, 2 seconds and a waypoint will be dropped there. I've been using this more and more. When we first came out with it, I'm like, that's stupid. I'm never going to use that. Why would I want to I can just go into tools. To me, this is a lot easier now. So one more time, I'm just tapping the screen, holding my finger down. It's going to place a waypoint there. If you do it by accident, no worries. Tap that cancel button in the top left corner, and that will remove the waypoint. So let's say this is a spot I want to scout for cow elk. I'm going to make it red. My red spots are areas I haven't been to yet that I want to check out because they kind of pop on my map for me. So I haven't been there yet. Maybe there's going to be elk there, maybe there's not. When I go there, if I find elk, I might change it to brown because that's my elk color. If I don't find elk and I find no elk sign and it's just like, man, what were you thinking? There's never going to be elk here. I might change it to, like, I use black sometimes just to be like, don't bother coming back here. You already checked it, cross it off the list. All right. So there's other tools in there. We're already getting close to an hour here. The line distance, the area shape are useful. We don't have time right now, but check those out if you're interested. I do want to talk about the tracker. So I mentioned earlier, when I go out hunting, I will park my truck and I will mark that area. I'll either give it the truck icon or the parking icon. Then what I'll do is I'll go to the bottom right corner and tap the tracker. Now, this is how I can track everywhere that I walked once I left the truck. You can do this while you're driving too. I've done it, in the truck if I want to be able to save the route that I drove in somewhere. I'm gonna tap the start button. You see the timer starts. If I were moving, it would show the distance that I'd traveled, and it would be leaving a light blue dashed line behind me. Okay, I'm not moving right now, so it's not going to show that. But the tracker is great for a number of things. I will use it, so I can find my way back out. Park the truck, I'm going elk hunting in a new spot. I can see everywhere I hiked. At the end of the day, I can maybe find a route to come back down so that I don't get caught up in a bunch of deadfall or get cliffed out or anything. I will also mark paths into tree stands so that I can find them in the dark. There's a lot of times where I don't even use a headlamp anymore. I'll just use my onX, turn my screen brightness way down, and just follow that line into a tree stand. Used it earlier this year when I was lucky enough, I killed an elk and I had a couple buddies that were coming to help pack out. I sent them my track. So I had a waypoint saved and the track. I shared those with them so that they knew exactly where I was, and they also knew the best path to get into that area to come find me. So how do I share a waypoint? Let's say I want to share this pheasant waypoint, and the same goes for a track. You share a track, the same method you share a waypoint. Tap on it, whether it be a track or a waypoint. Along the bottom of my screen there, there's a button that says share. You have two options, share with a link or share nearby. Most often you're going to share with a link. This is how you can text message this waypoint to somebody or email it. If I hit next, it's going to open up this window here. Now this is a tablet that doesn't have a cell card in it, so it doesn't give me the text message option. Your phone's probably going to have that. You can hit text, choose who to send it to. It will send a link to your friend or your spouse or whoever. They will click on it on their side. It will open up onX and ask them if they want to add that waypoint or that track to their map. They'll say yes or no. If they say yes, that waypoint will be on there, but they won't really be able to do much with it. It's kind of like if you're familiar with like Google Docs and sharing a doc with somebody and it's read only. They're able to see it, they're not able to edit it, and they're not able to share it with anybody else. Now, in 2025, we will be making some updates to this functionality where you will be able to give different permissions to different people, but we're not there yet. But that's super useful for, like I said, you shoot an animal, you need help dragging or need help packing it out, send waypoints to people if you have cell service. Also, safety-wise, I hunt by myself 95% of the time. If I'm going to go into an area, especially one I haven't been to before, a lot of times I'll put a waypoint where I'm planning to hike in, and I'll share it with a friend or share it with a coworker and say, hey, this is where I'm going to go tonight. If I'm not back by 9 o'clock, something's wrong. Send for help. So send it to a loved one, a significant other back home or something, so that they know, where you are. If, heaven forbid, you have to send for help. You can send all your tree stands to your buddy who doesn't come and help you do work. on your lease or on your farm, and so that they know where all the tree stands are come opening day, or duck blinds, you name it. Every time I go to the airport, I mark my truck. And if I'm riding with other people, I'll share that waypoint with them so that if we get split up at the airport coming back, everybody knows where the truck's parked. And again, you can do that same thing with tracks once they're saved. All right, moving on. Let's talk about using the location button. So my blue dot here is showing my location on the map. If you're looking at the map and you can't find your blue dot, how do you get back quickly? In the lower right-hand corner, there's a button that looks kind of like a crosshair. That's your location button. If I tap that, it's going to swing the map back and center my blue dot within the field of view. If you tap that button and it gives you some sort of warning that says like location services disabled or permissions needed, you may have not allowed onX to use your location. You do have to grant that permission so that we can use your cell phone or your device's GPS to locate you on the map. So you want to make sure that's turned on. If I tap this button one more time, that puts me into what I like to call kind of a heads up mode, where I have this sight cone. It looks kind of like a flashlight coming off of my blue dot. And as I rotate my tablet or my phone, the map rotates with me. So normally north is oriented up on the map, but when I go into this heads up mode, whatever direction I'm facing is up on the map. So this is very useful in the field when navigating. I will often use it if I'm hiking along a trail and the trail forks. Well, which one do I need to take? Instead of having to do like that mental juggling of I need to take the right one, left one, because I'm going, I'm actually traveling south, and just turn it into this mode and you can see, yep, I got to go right. I'll also use this if I'm hunting the edge of private and public, or maybe a small public parcel and I see some animals way off, like, are they on public or are they on private? Well, I can turn it into this heads up mode, kind of point my phone there and use the surrounding maybe vegetation or topography to see, all right, they're just this side of that row of trees. Yep, they're on public, or no, they're on private. Maybe we can gain permission or something like that. To get out of this mode, I can tap the compass in the top right corner. That brings me back to north being up. Or I can tap the little arrow that replaced my crosshair in the lower right-hand corner. That's how you get back to north being oriented up. I'm going to go back into that heads up mode though to show you how to utilize our compass mode. Now, compass mode's been around for about a year, but it's still relatively new. A lot of people haven't used it. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll notice a third icon has appeared. It looks like a compass. If I tap on that, my map's going to change a bit. My blue dot's going to go down towards the bottom. I have a compass heading at the top. As I move my tablet, you can see that moves as well. The real power of this compass mode, though, is in the rangefinder mode. So again, bottom right corner, there's now a fourth icon there. It looks like a rangefinder. If I tap on that, now I can range a distant target and drop a waypoint on it with some pretty good precision. Last year, about this time, I was hunting mule deer in eastern Montana, and compass mode was brand new, and I saw a bedded mule deer. I stalked in a little bit closer. It was outside of my effective range. I got to about 270 yards. I had a really good shooting position. I was comfortable with that shot. Got my gun on the bipod and rear shooting rest and everything was laid down, was ready, had my handheld rangefinder. This buck was bedded, had no good shots. I was going to need to wait for him to stand up. Well, I ranged him at 270 yards. I pointed my phone at him. I moved this slider. So I'm just moving my finger up and down on the screen right now. And I can zoom out if I need to. All the way to the top, it'll zoom me out. All the way to the bottom We'll zoom me in. So, of course, we're in town here. Suspend your, we'll have to suspend some disbelief. Pretend we're out in eastern Montana hunting mule deer. I pointed the phone at the mule deer, moved this to 270 yards, and tapped the waypoint icon. Now that put a waypoint where that buck was bedded. Hit done. In the heat of the moment, don't worry about customizing this. Like I said, do it after the fact. But I laid there for like an hour. The buck stood up. I got a good shot on him. He went over the ridge, kind of in this coulee country, went over the ridge and disappeared. I watched all the does he was with take off. He wasn't with them. I was pretty confident he was down, but I had the exact spot where I needed to start blood trailing. That was so nice to have. If you've done any amount of hunting, once you get up to an area, whether it's northern Minnesota, like I grew up hunting, I shot a buck at 13 yards this year. It looks different once you climb down on the ground. Now that 13-yard one, it was easy to find where the blood trail started. Also, I watched the deer drop. That's always nice. But even 50 yards through, I was in an area that had been logged a couple years before. It's getting real thick with aspen, or as we call them in Minnesota, popple trees. And you climb down from the stand, things look different. It's nice to have that waypoint as a kind of a landmark. Same thing out west here, shooting across a canyon. You climb down and back up the other side. It's hard to tell exactly where you need to start. You can also use this before the shot, of course. If I'm archery hunting, I glass up an elk in a meadow, in a park. I need to close some distance. Maybe I need to drop out of sight. Maybe I need to come around the backside of the ridge or something. I can mark a waypoint there, and then I have a landmark where I know what I'm shooting for. I know how far away I am, all those good things. So this compass mode, I love. It's one of the best features we've come out with in the last couple of years, in my opinion. I'm going to tap the exit button. It's going to bring me out of that compass mode, but you can see my waypoint is still there. So if I needed to swing around to get the wind right or something, I still have that mark there. Awesome. I feel like I've been talking a lot. I'll take a drink of water again. I'm going to put my tablet away for now, and I'm going to pull up onX on my computer. This is an underutilized feature of the onX system. It comes with your membership, doesn't cost anything extra. And this is the onX web map. So if you look at it, it looks very similar. Let me actually refresh it because I've changed some things. There we go. So you get to the web map here just by going to www.onxmaps.com. You log in the upper right-hand corner. Same email and password you used on your mobile device will log you in here. And you'll notice all these waypoints that I've marked are showing here now. So they transfer back and forth. They sync up. So if I mark a bunch of waypoints on my map here, they'll transfer over to my mobile device. What I do on my mobile device transfers here. Okay, so the web map I use it a lot for scouting. It's a much bigger map. For me, it's just easier to see things and kind of get a sense of the broader landscape versus doing it on my smaller phone screen. So I want to show you some of our different base maps here is why I pulled this up. So I'm going to get some Forest Service so that we can take a look here. So right now, this is the satellite base map. I go in the lower right-hand corner is the base map button. On your mobile device, it's also in the lower right-hand corner. It will look very similar. This one says SAT in 2D. It's because I'm on the satellite base map right now. If I zoom in, it's what a lot of us are familiar with, right? Similar to like Google Earth was probably the first one a lot of us used. Shows me the satellite imagery. If I want to get a sense for the terrain and how the elevation changes, I can use the topo map. Now, this is similar to a lot of the USGS quads maps, paper maps we used to use. Shows me, it's got some shading to kind of help me tell what direction the slope is falling. And it gives me the elevation. I've got those major lines in this part of the country. Those major lines are 200 feet apart. So I go from 5,600, 58, 6,000, 6,200, etc. What I use mostly is this hybrid base map, however. It's the best of both worlds. I use this more than 90% of the time because it gives me the satellite imagery, but also allows me to see those topographic lines. So I use this, like I said, I almost never use satellite, to be perfectly honest. If I was hunting, when I go back to northern Minnesota, it's very flat. Then the satellite and the hybrid, there's not much difference between them. So I could use them both interchangeably. If the lines are distracting, I totally get that. Use the satellite. But I like having that because just seeing the vegetation doesn't tell the whole story, particularly in a mountainous or a hilly region. The animals, sometimes the vegetation doesn't matter at all for animal movement or very little. It's more about where are those saddles? Where are those benches for elk to bed on? Things like that. Where's the north facing slopes? Where's the south facing slopes? So that's why I use the hybrid. But to each their own. Couple different things you'll notice here when I go topo and hybrid are the waterways. They pop. They're a lot more easier to find on hybrid and topo than on satellite. They don't show up as much. Let me find an area here. I know there's some in the rattlesnake. So we sometimes get questions on what the different blue lines mean. I'll go to topo here so you can see. This is kind of a darker solid blue line. That's going to be a regular stream. That's going to be something that more than likely has water in it year round. These dashed or dotted blue lines are more of an intermittent or ephemeral or seasonal stream. So they might only have water during spring runoff and the rest of the year they're dry. Or maybe after a big rain event, they have water in them. So keep that in mind, especially if you're going to do like a backpack hunt and you're going to have to refill water. A stream like this very likely has water in it year round. Some streams like this, if you're going early September, Western Montana, they might not have water in them, especially if we haven't gotten rain for a long time. All the snow has run off. That might be a dry creek bed. I wouldn't necessarily count on being able to get water from this unless you have more local knowledge or something like that. A stream like this, much more likely to hold water into it. Okay. Want to talk about a couple different imagery options as well. So we have recent imagery and leaf-off imagery. I'm going to talk about leaf-off imagery first. Now, leaf-off imagery is only available to elite members. It's one of the perks you get from getting the elite, the full spectrum membership. We have leaf-off imagery for, I believe it's 15 states currently. Most of them east of the Rockies, actually all of them east of the Rockies. And so when I zoom in, let's find a spot here in Wisconsin that's forested. This looks pretty good. You can see it looks like an image that was taken in the fall or in the winter. If I turn it off, you see the difference. More of a summer image here. So this was a big request from a lot of people. They wanted imagery taken in the winter so that they could see, hey, I'm going to be hunting in November. I want it to look like how it does when I'm hunting. Some areas you can even see, some deer trails or ATV trails through here. You can, of course, easily tell the difference between where evergreen trees are and deciduous trees. So this is in Wisconsin. I don't have it off the top of my head, every state that we have. If you're wondering if your state has it, you'll know pretty quickly. Minnesota doesn't have it. We tell you right on the map there. So I know some of the New England states we have, Wisconsin. We're looking to add more. It's not necessarily available for every state. Or not necessarily just like picking on you, Minnesota, say, hey, we don't care about you guys. We're getting the states where it's available to us. It's good quality imagery. That's the other thing too. Sometimes it's available, but it's pretty fuzzy. So we are looking to add more states. We're prioritizing eastern half of the country. That's where most of our deciduous forest is. And we're trying to add more as it becomes available. Again, you do have to have an elite membership to access the leaf off. Same with the recent imagery. So we can look at recent imagery. I was actually fooling around with our onX fish app recently, and the recent imagery was really cool to be able to go back to last winter and see ice conditions. So on Lake Mille Lacs here, we can see it wasn't a good ice season last year in Minnesota, but you can see how that changes. If we go to, we'll go around Yellowstone here. This is December of last year, a lot of snow. As we get forward into spring, snow starts melting. So a lot of different use cases for this recent imagery. I don't remember if I've mentioned this is another elite only feature. But this time of year, you can use it to check, hey, are the duck ponds freezing up? Or if you're an ice fisherman, hey, is there ice on this lake? What's it looking like? Earlier in the fall in the upper Midwest, around pheasant opener, is the corn out? Are the crops out? You can kind of get a sense of how that is progressing. Now, this recent imagery is taken at 2-week intervals, and it is not as high level of detail. The resolution is not as crisp as our regular imagery. It's not meant to replace our regular satellite imagery. As I zoom in, you can see it's not quite as crisp. This is maybe not a great example in an area with snow like this, but it's not quite as crisp as our regular imagery. And that's the trade-off. It's taken much more frequently, and it's just meant to be another piece in the puzzle. It's another piece of information available to you. Use them both in conjunction, right? All right. We are coming up on time here. The last thing I want to talk about is the search. So we get a lot of questions about, hey, how do I enter a waypoint from a set of coordinates? Here's how you do it. And you can do this on mobile as well. The search bar in the mobile app is in the upper right-hand corner. It looks kind of like a magnifying glass. Tap on that. And here is where you can type in coordinates or copy and paste them. So if you're going to if you want to mark a waypoint based off GPS coordinates that you have from another program, you can type them in here. More commonly, you're probably going to copy and paste them. So I'm going to go 47.123. That's our latitude. You don't have to put a comma between coordinates, but your second coordinate does have to have a minus sign in front of it. If you don't put the minus sign, it's going to put you on the other side of the world because it thinks you're, east of the international, or not the international date line, the prime meridian, and it's going to put you in Europe or Africa or something. So minus 100.1234. I believe we can go up to 5 coordinates. So if you have 5 decimal places, put 5. If you don't, put what you have. Click on the result, and it puts me in the middle of this lake here. So if I want to add a waypoint, click Add Waypoint and save. And now I have a waypoint on that location. Where am I anyways? Looks like North Dakota. That is North Dakota. Awesome. So that's how you search for coordinates. Decimal format works best. Search doesn't really work with UTM or degrees, minutes, seconds. So if you have to do the conversion to get to decimal. You can also search for landowners. So you can search, well, actually, let me back up. Besides coordinates, you can also search for lakes, towns, Yellowstone National Park, different landmarks, things like that. So I could go Glacier National Park, wait for that to load up, click on it. It's going to bring me to Glacier. So it might be faster to navigate that way if you prefer to just search for the town you want to find versus scrolling all over on the map. All right, let's talk about searching for a landowner. Instead of location, I'm going to click on private land. And now I'm going to search for a name. I'm just going to go John Murphy. or a generic name. It's going to give me a lot of results. But you'll notice these results they're all in Montana, or at least the first ones are, and then it gets to Washington, Idaho, Oregon, etc. The onX search feature is going to prioritize your results based on where the map is located. So we're in Glacier National Park, northwestern Montana. It's going to prioritize results that are closest to that part of the country. If I was looking for a John Murphy's property in New Hampshire, I would want to move my map to New Hampshire. Okay. And help the map out as much as you can. If I know John Murphy is in northern New Hampshire, I'm going to move my map to northern New Hampshire. If I know he's in southern New Hampshire, move to southern New Hampshire, etc. If I know John Murphy's middle name or middle initial, say John F. Murphy, okay, closest one's in Washington here. The more information you can give it, the better, okay? And then to get to that area or that person's land, I just click on these options here. Now, I don't have Washington turned on in my layers, so it's not showing me the boundaries. But if I did, you would get the picture there. See if I can find one get back to Montana. I'm going to turn off this recent imagery because it's causing issues. There we go. And search for John Murphy again. I get some results in Montana. There's one. Maybe that's the John I'm looking for. If not, I click back, go to the next one. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how you search for a landowner there. I am about out of breath, or my voice is starting to crack. So I'm going to talk about, let's do the giveaway here. I will post the giveaway link in the chat. I'll maybe have Paul do it in the background as well. And I'm going to turn off the chat right now, just so that that link stays at the bottom so everybody can find it. So giveaway link is in the chat. Let me pull it up on the screen here as well. Click on that link. We just asked for some of your information, your shipping address, so we can get the stuff sent out to you tomorrow. We're giving away a couple of these onX topo tees. This is the link here as well. This blue one, if you prefer. Some people's phones don't let them click on that link. Some have like a security feature or something. If it doesn't let you click on it, you might try to copy and paste it into a browser or write it down and type it in manually. The giveaway will be open until midnight tonight. So if you're watching this after November 20th, you're watching the recording, giveaway has closed. Apologies on that. But we do giveaways just about every one of our classes. We'll do another 101 in December. So sign up for that one if you want to be entered to win. Again, giveaway links in the chat. Get entered for that if you're interested. If you don't have a current onX Hunt membership, if you have a basic membership or you're a trial member right now, we do have a discount for you. If you use the promo code APP101, you save 30% off your first year of premium or elite. That does have to be used on our website. It has to be used on onxmaps.com. Promo codes can't be used in the App Store or the Google Play Store. If you try to purchase through Google Play or Apple, you will be charged full price. Then you'll probably be emailing customer support because you're disappointed you didn't save some money. So save yourself the trouble. Go to our website and sign up there. Again, it's good for the first year if you don't have a current membership. If you have any trouble with that, shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com, or give us a phone call, and our customer support team will get you taken care of there. So again, that's app101 is that 30% promo code. If you want to learn more, we have a lot of information on our website. We have all kinds of tutorials. If you're more of a person who likes to read, I can be that way sometimes, where I prefer to just read information versus watch a video. Our website's great for that. We do have a whole bunch of other demos on our YouTube channel, some shorter videos that talk about just kind of one specific feature. check those out as well as our previous masterclasses. I talked about our customer support center. We have email support. I believe we're at 7 days a week right now. Phone support 5 days a week. You can give us a call. Most of them are based in Montana. Everyone's based in the US. So you can talk to a real live person and get all of your questions answered. And then do check out more masterclasses. We do slow down this time of year for, Thanksgiving and then get into Christmas and everything. We don't do as many classes, but after the first of the year, after January, we'll really start going on our application season classes. So if you're a person who's interested in applying to hunt big game in the West, we do a whole bunch of those every year. Then later in the spring, we'll get into turkeys and spring bear and all that good stuff. So let's see. I think Paul might have shared some questions with me, if there are any that were really pressing here. So there was one just asking to explain more about the uses of the compass feature. So the compass feature really lets you, the big thing for me is not how to, but it really lets you mark a distant location with precision. So it can be used for any number of applications. Most commonly, planning a stock, being able to distantly mark a waypoint where an animal is located, so that you can, if you got to drop down the bottom of a creek drainage or go around the backside of a ridge or something to stock in. I use the example of marking where an animal was standing when you shot, so that you know where to blood trail. Those are the two biggest ones for me right now. I'm sure if I sat here for a while, I could think of more. How often do you update land ownership? So it depends on the county. We try to match the county update schedule. So we get our data, in most cases, they come from your local county tax assessors. And a state like Montana has a fantastic system, and they update very frequently. So we update Montana land ownership, I think it's like monthly. That's one of the fastest in the nation. Other states, they only do it once a year. So I know I used to work in getting some of this data in. I worked with some of the county tax assessors. I know at least at that time, it's been 4 or 5 years now, Wisconsin, once a year. They would release all of their data in like June or July. So if your house sold in August, it was probably going to be until that next June or July that we would get it updated. We are working on different processes to make that faster now. But every county gets updated at least once a year. There's 3,300 county or county equivalents in the United States. So you can imagine if you break that down by week, we got to do like 60 some a week. It's a lot of data. And so if you do have something that you notice is wrong, we do have an error reporting feature in the app. If you tap on a parcel, there's a button at the bottom of that query card that says report an error, or it might say give feedback. I think Android says give feedback, iOS says report an error. That allows you to report that map error directly to us. And then that will go to our mapping team. They'll reach out to the county. We always verify, of course. And if the county says, yep, this is owned by, John Doe, then we'll update it when we get that confirmation from the county. How can I tell what level of onX hunt I have? Good question. If you're on your mobile device, in the upper left-hand corner, there are 3 horizontal lines called a hamburger menu. If you tap on that and then go into My Account, that will tell you whether you have a basic membership, a premium membership, or an elite membership. So again, tap those 3 dots in the top left corner on your mobile device, tap My Account, then that'll tell you your membership. If you're on a computer, if you're on the web map, lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says My Account and Settings. That'll get you to the same place. Somebody asked to repost the promo code. I'm going to type it in the chat, and I'll tell it to you. It's app 101. So app 101 is that 30% discount code for your first year's membership. And with that, looks like that's all the questions that Paul sent over that people were asking. I apologize if we weren't able to get to everybody's questions tonight. Usually we have 2 or 3 customer support folks on. We just had one member of the team on tonight, so we were a little shorthanded. If your question didn't get answered, again, apologies. Shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com. You can expect a response from our customer support team tomorrow. If you email tonight, you can expect a response tomorrow, and they'll get you taken care of. And with that, before I lose my voice completely, we're at an hour and a half. I always try to make these as short as I can, but there's so much info. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Hope you learned something tonight. Let us know. There's a survey at the end once we close this out where you can suggest future topics for classes. That's kind of how I'm building out our schedule for next year. Let us know what you want to learn. We want these to be informative and helpful to you. So again, thanks. Thank you for filling out the survey in advance and hope to see you on a future class. Have a good night.